when I was going through my notes, it had it as still pending, but I'll make sure that I'll add that here. Let me tell everybody who's with me today. I'm excited,
That's
man.
awesome.
I've been back and forth on some. I've had, I see. I think you're my second police officer, so I've been able to talk a little bit of police work here in the last few weeks. And then, man, I tell you, Nate, I'll tell you a little bit about it in a second. But I've had some guys from in recovery and that were on
Wow.
the other side, right? They've come on, man, and
Man,
it is, you talk about reliving the career from their perspective and then from ours as well. So it's been a really cool last 3 or 4 weeks of just going through some episodes. Um,
that's awesome.
Today on the Jeff Robertson Show, I'm joined by Nate Green, coach, consultant, and soon to be author, is what I had because we had scheduled this much, but a established author with another book coming out soon to correct that. But here's the cool thing, folks, is Nate's career took a dramatic turn at 23 when he faced heart failure and had to leave a career in law enforcement. What could have been an ending became an absolute start of a mission to help others live with purpose, discipline, and impact. Nate is about becoming the greatest version of yourself and influencing others along the way. Man, I am excited to get to know you a little better and just learn more about your journey. I can't thank you enough for giving us a few minutes today.
Jeff, man, I appreciate it. This is awesome. I always loving jamming with some old 5-0, baby. Let's
Yeah,
go.
right. Yeah. I think that's what's so cool too, because you were 23 in law enforcement. I went into public safety at 15. I was in a 911 center when I was around 23. So just young influence, like it's
Yeah.
where I spent a lot of my time. And then, here we are now too. But tell me, what's the day in your life look like these days?
Man, the day of my life now is a complete different world, man. Like especially going from law enforcement to entrepreneur to business exit to I mean now, man, what like today's been I've had four consulting clients. I had a great call with my dad at lunchtime, just chilling with him, talking with him a little bit. I've got my dirt bike loaded up right outside, and when I'm done with this, I'm gonna grab my son from school. We're gonna run and go jump at the dirt bike track. I mean, we're just gonna go have fun. So like every day is a little bit different, man. It's always about interlacing impact, enjoying the days, focusing on like family and relationships, and every day is a little bit different. But what I love is when you have impact at the center point of everything you do, there's so much better fulfillment on the backside.
Yeah. And it creates a lifestyle. You get to spend that extra time with your kid,
Yeah,
grabbing
man,
your
it's
son, right?
awesome.
Otherwise you'd be working a shift, or if you're still in
Yeah.
law enforcement or something along those lines, man. So you just that they how things align to put you in the role you're in now. How old's your son?
He's 14.
Right there with you, man. My son's 15, daughter's 13, so
That's
we're
awesome.
yeah, we're right in there together.
Incredible, man. That's a blast. It's a great stage, a tough stage at times, but like when you pour into them, man, it can be an incredible stage.
I always, you'll hear me say this a lot, and folks, you'll hear me repeat this: is I think they're raising me. I was
Mm,
the things that they're able to do, and having kids when I was a little older, and being more self aware, and um, I had really wrapped my arms around my son. Absolutely, when he came along, was pivotal for me, and just gave me purpose of not, it got me out of a lot of chaos. I was probably
yeah.
letting allow fester and live in that I just didn't know how to put to bed. And man, he helped me
Mm,
turn some corners with that as well. So I
that's
think
awesome.
just there, I tell him all the time, I'm like, I'm just here to drive you wherever you need to get and help you reach this, because he's smart, and his sister's the same way. Like, it's
That's
crazy of
awesome.
just how smart they are, and they have how unique individuals they are. Like, I
Yeah.
influence them, they see things I do or and not do or what have you, and we have some non-negotiables in our house, and
Yep.
some of those is like of leaving. We leave things better and we found it. Like when we go to athletic fields and stuff, like, hey, we're leaving it better and we found it. Those kind of mentalities. But
Yeah.
man,
Huge.
that's really cool.
Yeah, man, it is awesome. And like I think the biggest thing as a dad, especially law enforcement guys like us, like we're regiment, we're structured. And I think the hard part is that rigidity can really lead to what appears to be pride.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that my free advice for everybody, I'm not the perfect dad. I'm just a guy trying to figure it out and struggle along the way. But it's humility, man. Like I've gone to my son so many times being like, dude, listen, like I am just navigating waters as I come across them and just trying to do my best given my background, my experiences. I know I'm not perfect, man. So as much as I love you and I'm doing my best, you got to have grace and mercy for me because man, like I'm just a dude trying to figure this out and trying to be the best dad I can along the journey. And when you go at parenting from that perspective, it's man, like, yeah, you're going to fall. We all will. Parents suck. And in the process, we can just go at it from a standpoint of like, yeah, that was a little stupid. I shouldn't have picked that battle. I shouldn't have been that firm about it. There's so many times that my son will be like, hey, dad, can I go do it? And I'm like, no. And then I'm like, dude, I don't even know why I just said no. So look, just give me a few minutes. Let me process and then I'll get back to you. Like this is
Yeah.
like, why did I even say no in the first place? It's like reactions. And it's just like, man, like take a step back, show humility. Obviously, if they're nagging the crap out of you after you say no, then no, like no will stand. But just give me a few minutes. Let me breathe. Let me think about this, and then I can come back to you.
Man, I think when you add that too, and this is something I told mine last year or so, was I set them down and I was like, all right, raise your hand if you've ever been a dad before. And I'm like, and I was sitting there and I'm like, all right, can you two go get your manual and I'll go get mine, and then we can exchange manuals. I'm like, all right, and they're like, where are you going with this? And I said, so let me tell you something. We're figuring this out together. And if
Yep.
if 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 the four of us, you two and me and your mom, can't sit down and fit and have conversations, have some really good communication, and where it took me, where I was taking them on the coaching side, is I said, you all deal with something that me and your mom didn't have to deal with until we were adults, and that's cell phones. I'm like,
Yeah.
you have information and communication at your fingertips, and I'm like, I'm still processing that as an adult of
Yeah.
and I go, when you guys decide you're going to snap a selfie and send it, it's there. Back in my day, I had to send that off and get it developed in 2 weeks, and so
Yeah.
they deal with different things than we do, and
Yeah.
that we did. So
Different
that's what I
pressures.
kind of
Yeah.
tell them, like it's our job to, is, and I think from you listening to you say it, it really speaks to the vulnerable side of letting hey, I don't have all these answers, but us
Yeah.
working together, we're going to try to complete this puzzle.
Yeah, man. And I think that's the key in life, man. Like so many people, have that mine's bigger mentality. They got something to prove. And like for me, when people talk to me, I'm like, dude, I got nothing to prove. I've got a history that speaks for itself. I've got a resume that speaks for itself. But as of today, I'm just another dude that's trying to figure out what is the greatest purpose that I can have on this earth to have the biggest amount of impact, and I'm just doing my best to navigate each step along the way. And just, I'm held accountable by God. It's like, hey, listen, like, what did you do with your days here? And that's where for me, it goes beyond me. And that's where like, yeah, great, mate. Maybe I did some cool things, but that means nothing about today. I got to wake up today and do the best I can today to have an impact and change lives today. Because resumes don't do anything for changing lives. They're part of where you were, not where you're at.
Oh yeah. Ed Milet said it one time, and he said, I'm afraid." He goes, "You always hear the story when you get to the gate, and they're with Peter. He's standing there, and he's like, 'Hang on here, Ed Milet, Ed Milet, I have here,' and he read off this resume of things that he was supposed to accomplish, and he did this. He helped 10,000. How many did you help, Ed? Only, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I got the wrong Ed Milet." And he goes through and he goes, "I'm just afraid that when I get there, I haven't met the expectations that was
Yeah.
set forth to me."
Yeah, and you know what? It's a tough balance, and not to get into hyper religion, but for
Yeah.
me, I know one struggle in my own life has been the good enough mentality, and I know
Mm.
that entrepreneurs struggle with that. I know that individuals struggle with that, and a lot of times we struggle with that in like worldly relationships, such as just people and friends. Like, are we good enough for this spouse? Are we good enough for this girl, for this guy? Are we good enough for this group? And I think for me, because of some of the stuff that happened to me when I was young, like I've always felt not good enough in my relationship with God. Like I always had to do the things to be good enough for God to approve me, to want me. And if you know, and I know, That's completely the opposite.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, listen, God sacrificed for us when we were his enemies. And how much even more once we become sons and daughters of him, like how much more does he care to say, hey, come here, Nate. Like, I know you can't get right, but it's all right because I'm God. And like that's the coolest part about it. And that's where, like, when you look at it from that standpoint, you can then even further have an impact, because it's like, all right, God, listen, like, you gave me opportunity. You gave me, in my case, financial freedom. You've given me these things. Now, wait a second. I want to be more, give more, impact more because of what you've given me, not out of obligation, not because I have to be good enough. And really navigating those waters, man, has been a lot to mentally process, especially as law enforcement guys, man. It's like, hey, listen, here's your checklist. Here's how you get to the next. Here's this specialty school. Here's how you become a sergeant. Here's how, dude, it's always checklists, and you got to be good enough. And then, I was 19 and I was like, man, I had something to prove, because nobody thought I should be there because I was the youngest, on the force. And they're like, man, you a whippersnapper. You can't even buy your own guns and bullets, and you can't even do this, and you can't even do that. Can't even drink a beer. But, like, I had to show that I was not only going to go to the level, I was going to go beyond. And so my entire life has been that performance based. Are you good enough? And it's been so hard to shake that in my own life.
Yeah. No, I get that. And when you get just in spirituality, even the non-believers, I tell them, hey, just non-believe for a few minutes out of your day, because it allows you to focus on what faith you believe in. But I tell, one of the simplest things to teach when I'm teaching new coaches how to just, if they want to coach, right? Somebody who's like, Jeff, I want to coach my own men's group or whatever. And I'm like, faith, family, finance, and fitness. It's just easy for cover the 4 F's, and that's a great way. I've heard a lot of speakers that use that before, and like when you touch on the faith, law enforcement is one of the hardest, and sometimes they're so bought in, but even like myself in my own journey was hard. You deal with the bad, and you're like, man, and then as you get older and you process things differently, you kind of see that's all part of plans and processes and just things that we evolve in as people. And there's a little bit of free will that's tied into all that as well. But I think those are always healthy conversations, just to help bring that, no matter who you're talking to, just a little bit of nudge that pique somebody's curiosity. So I'm glad you brought that up like that, man. And like you say, this ain't, we ain't got to go to church. We ain't got to go to church, but during our session here. But I think it leads into what I always tell folks is law enforcement and being in public safety was, some of those were the hardest. And I speak for myself, as those the hardest steps. Two of my closest friends recently was that we never talked about spirituality or anything back on the job, and they both said the other day when we were getting ready to hang up, and I've talked to both of them recently, and they were like, "Hey, Jeff, I just wanted you to know something." I'm like, "What's that?" It's like, "Hey, I got a little closer in spirituality. I've been working on that a little bit more, and I hope you are too." And I'm like, "Hey, man, it's good to hear." So I think we all turn corners with that, and these are guys that I never like. There, one guy was. He was like, "You die." He goes, "You live and you die." And then me and him was talking one day, and he was like, "There's something out there, buddy." He says it's got to be, and he changed his perspective. My point to tell you all this, Nate, for the folks that are listening to this a little bit here, is it's all right to change. You got to be the same.
Yeah, that's it. And like Matt Chandler, a pastor from Texas, says something about like atheist. He's like, man, like if you're an atheist, you got better faith than I do, because it takes more faith to believe that there's not a God than the faith that there's a God that loves me and sacrificed for me. And he's like, man, you're more faith. You got more faith than me, because like I can't believe that. I have to have something to believe in, and this is at least something I can have faith in that is tangible. And that's there's always different. We're on this journey, and going back to law enforcement, dude, like. You're not allowed to have feelings. You see a guy with a head blown off, and you're like, oh, he's got a splitting headache, and it's sarcasm, and you bury it, and you're taught not to feel. And I remember I was 19 and I was hearing all these jokes, and I was like, oh man, this is weird. And then you're like, wow, like then you start, just it's coping, and then you walk through it, and you're not allowed to really feel. And it's
I think that gets
journey.
worse, Nate. I think it's gotten worse too, because we didn't have body cams, so you can make those funny comments or whatever. Now all that stuff's recorded, so you don't get to add a little humor to the misery that you're in at the moment.
Exactly.
Now. It's all being recorded.
Yeah, now you got to tiptoe, man. You could never pay me to go back, man. That's a whole different world. That's not my jam. And you know what? I tell you what, I talk to a lot of people that are going into law enforcement. And I'm like, is there anything else that you could do and be
Yeah.
really good at and find purpose in? And they're like, oh yeah. I'm like, okay, then don't go into law enforcement. Like,
I,
if
te-
there's anything else that you're like, there could be, then don't go.
I tell people go and but don't try to make a life out of it. I'm like,
Yeah,
I think our own all curiosity, and I think there's something to be said for for some kind of public service.
yeah.
Whether you go in the military, whether you go in and support your local community, I think just understanding what goes on inside those worlds and how they all meet, just a little bit of giving back to your community. And when you get into law enforcement, especially in your own areas, you see what actually goes on
It changes
inside of
your
your
perspective.
communities.
Yeah,
Yeah, it'll
yeah,
change
yeah.
politics.
Yeah, it will change a lot, man. It will like,
Yeah,
there's a lot of things that it doesn't matter how far you're removed from that. There's certain things that stick, and you know what? Yeah, there's, I tell you what, just privately or personally. I mean, I guess not private because everybody's hearing it, but with me, because so many tone out calls, emergency calls happen between 2:30 and 3 in the morning. Even to this day, man, I wake up all the time between 2:30 and 3 in a cold sweat, and it's
yeah,
just like, so many traumatic situations happen between that time block. So now my body is more sensitive to that time block, and things just, it wakes me up over and over again. And just the way it is, and you just get used to it and you just live with it. Doesn't matter how far you remove your body, it's like your body
yeah.
holds the record of it. And it's a little bit crazy.
No, I think yeah, I'll have some moments. That mine is further removed. I never. That's what I was going to walk us into is when you get into spirituality, you've walked, you've had a brush that's closer than many.
Mm,
Just reading about you and when um, your uniqueness of someone who's that young and had an experience in heart failure, that brings that's because you see that sometimes with folks that had a heart attack, like whatever, like, oh, wait a minute here now, something spoke to me, or I felt this, or and you see that with seniors or folks that are. So
yeah.
you've had like a lot of nudge
Yeah.
to find that closer journey, whether you were close to begin with or you were in your own journey before. But walk me back, man. You started law enforcement when you were 19 or in public
Yep.
safety, and then um, tell me about those times for you, and then ultimately where you end up when you're around 23 years old.
Yeah, I mean, law enforcement in the academy at 18, I had something to prove. I was the youngest they had ever led into that academy. And so, I
How
was
did you
filled
make
full of,
that happen, Nate? How did all right, tell me for just for time's sake, because you were way younger than me. But
yeah.
what years are we talking about here, just so people can
Oh
kind of capture the
man.
timeline?
So I graduated 2002. So it must have been 2003 when I was in the
Yeah.
academy.
Yeah, so
And
we're post
so,
9/11. We're
yeah,
post nine
yeah.
eleven. For just there's so when you look at anchoring moments post 9/11, there's law enforcement's just churning. It's like Clinton.
Yeah.
I was a my position was created out of the Crimes or Cops Act that President Clinton passed.
Gotcha.
So they dumped a
Gotcha.
bunch of money in. So here it's not like there's this, hey, we're just taking whoever we can come in. They
Yeah.
picked you for a reason, dude. Sounds like you were a squared
Yeah.
away kid.
Well, it was more my ability to communicate. And I think that
Wow.
was what landed me in the academy. That's actually what got me my job as a cop. Is especially during the movement, and you're aware of it, but some of the listeners might not be aware of it. The white males get picked last
Yeah.
and in law
Right.
enforcement. And that was, I sat there in the academy, and even though I was overproducing and everything else, like I saw every Hispanic and black male get picked up. And even if I was overproducing because of the demand at the time for all these different cultures and everything to be in there inside the blue. And so that's fine, but I had to work even the more, especially when it came down to getting a job and really, sit through different stuff. I was setting records at departments by their physical agilities test. I was outperforming, but what I had to do is I had to out communicate, and I had to learn how to be the best communicator. And that was what ended up getting me the job, when I could have very easily got bypassed multiple times. And so with that, it was incredible, and really getting into law enforcement. Quite a bit of hazing because of my age, quite a bit of jokes, but you know what, I can take it. And so, I enjoyed the season. I enjoyed the season being on the streets. At first, my first nickname was Dr. Death because it seemed to be I found dead bodies everywhere. But then I got the nickname Rook Nasty after some gnarly fights. And this big guy, his name was Rich Roman, still remember it to this day. He was a bodybuilder, Puerto Rican guy. I had this big old fight and ended up this construction worker destroyed my training officer, our backup, and I was the last one, and I was the smallest out of the three. And I annihilated this guy. I mean, like, he was messed up. I was messed up. And Rich Roman came in here, burly guy, and he looks at me and he's like, Rook, you nasty. You Rook Nasty. And so my new nickname became Rook Nasty after that date. And so that's the nickname that held the rest of the time. I got rid of Dr. Death. So it was much better.
Yeah, no, man, that's urban. See, your city department or rural,
Yep.
or where was you at?
Yeah.
Yeah,
City and then some special ops.
yeah, cool, man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so fast tracking on your career from 18, like I said, for prospective folks, like Nate can't buy beer. Nate is can't technically buy a pistol. It has to be issued to him. He can't.
I
buy. He
couldn't buy
got
my
to be
bullets.
yeah, got to be 21 to buy stuff. Same for me when I was doing EMS. At 18, I went to work in our local emergency room. I was pushing drugs for docs and giving morphine, all sorts of
Man.
stuff. I couldn't buy beer. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
always the.
Dude,
I
it,
didn't.
it was the
I lost
funniest
my.
thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. How and as you're in your career, how did your heart condition come about?
So I actually had a car accident when I was 22, and it basically left me paralyzed for a season. And I had paralyzed in both legs, and then it feeling came back in one, but then left in the other for about 3 months. And it was a really tough season, kind of like a mind screw. Hey, am I ever going to go back? Am I ever going to be able to walk again? Lots of damage in my spine. And then finally, everything came back, and I was able to go back on the street. But then I had to go through the physical agilities test again. And what I didn't know is I was part bunny rabbit, because as I was running the physical agilities test, I didn't know I was passing out and blacking out, and then jumping right back up and running again over and over again until they stopped me. Turns out my heart was stopping. And so after that, my heart rate hit 200, I think it's 203, 204 for about 6 hours. And they couldn't do anything to bring my heart rate down. And it was a crazy season. I felt like I was running a marathon, just laying in a hospital room. And
Yeah.
then through that, it just turned out to be a massive disaster of, went from being able to run 20 miles to not even be able to walk 20 blocks without blacking out. And it was a crazy season. And through that, man, there was a lot of darkness that came, a lot of fear, a lot of unknowns. The doctors, they really didn't understand why it was all happening. It was kind of this really weird, like I was a guinea pig. And man, dark days, the day I was let go, because they found out it didn't meet the requirements for the Florida Heart and Lung Act. And so they're like, hey, Nate, like, listen, like, Green, you're gone. Like, you're done skis. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Like, yeah, like, we need your stuff back, and you're gone. And I'm like, okay, is there any like financial assistance? Nope, you are just gone. And so it was a tough season of darkness, and trying to figure out like what my life could and should look like on the other side. And luckily my dad is such a wise dude. And he'd always told me, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So I'd been going to school for business, because at some point I knew I was going to want to launch businesses. And so then kind of fast tracked during that transition. But when you're sitting in that darkness, there has to be hope. And for me, there wasn't a lot of hope in those days. And I think the hardest thing that I had to face was, am I going to sit here and end this and take the easy road? Or am I going to go and prove that you can overcome this and be a light?
Yeah.
Navigating that. And I knew in that moment that if I was going to push forward and try to be a light, that I couldn't go at it easy. I couldn't go at it slight. I couldn't go at it where I was willing to just check a few things off my list. I set in my mind, like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go chase down the entrepreneurial road. I'm going to show people that you can overcome hardships, that you can really create a better life for yourself. And I'm going to learn not just for me to win, but I'm going to learn, document, and then go back and help other people. And that was the entire mission that I set out on in that timeline. And I think that's what kept me motivated. That was that hope that I clung to, was more that this is not just for me. This is for they. Whoever they are that are going to need me down the road, I need to overcome today for them.
Who, oh, man, I mean, that is, because it's all you knew, right?
Yeah.
Basically graduated high school and you start being a cop, and you're doing police work and all the things that you enjoy. And then comes this time come along to say, you can't do this anymore. Um, all right. So a couple questions I had was the heart condition a byproduct of your first accident, or did you ever figure that out?
So in the end, like years later, a chiropractor found that higher up in my spine, everybody was focused about all the discs out and all the damage down in my L's. Somebody missed that my spine actually had a kink in it from the car accident.
Yeah.
And the kink in my spine was right above where my brain would then communicate to my heart. And so it was basically a neuro and cardiogenic communication path issue, which, thank God, the chiropractor was able to put me through a ton of treatments over years and years and years and straighten my spine out. And I am good to go, and with no side effects, no issues. And, it definitely was crazy to find out that it really was caused by that car accident. But, it was too late to go back and go after the city for it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, was it on the job car accident or was
Yeah,
it?
it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was in my cruiser, but it was too late to go back and reopen that can.
Yeah. Oh man. And yeah, Aaron, I think the other thing I wanted to ask you, because this is, the cool thing for me when I talk about my dark times, and this is our opportunity to talk about Nate's dark times, is there's this is knowing who is around you back then. Are you trying to forge this on your own? It's what kind of support network comes into your life, because I mean, let's face facts, y'all. Nate's not just dealing with a career loss. He's dealing with, if I turn over wrong in my bed, I might not wake up. So there's a certain, like, there's this, my mind's working of all the things that I'm sitting here like, don't move, Jeff, because you never what kind of support network did you have around you back then?
There's pros and cons to law enforcement, and I think one of the cons is, naturally, a lot of guys, not all guys, when you go through hard times, you go into a season of reclusion.
Yeah.
And so during that time, I reclused. And so some of the people that could have been there for me during that season, I didn't allow to be there for me during that season. The same way we made sarcastic jokes about our hard times, and the things that we saw, is coping. And how I coped in that moment and in those moments was, I got tired of seeing the look of pity on people's face when they learned about my situation. I couldn't handle the pain that they had for me. And so I pulled away. I couldn't handle another, man, I'm so sorry. And so I pulled back. And so during that season, could I have had a lot of people that were readily available to deploy and assist me emotionally, spiritually, and just connectively? Of course. But with my background, it wasn't the natural move. The natural move was to self sustain, was to fall back, was to, tighten the grip of, hey, listen, like, I'm just going to sit in the darkness, and I'm going to sit here and, um, hope people don't call. And that those moments.
Dude, absolutely the same, to the point to where I reach out for some of those voices that I pushed away back then.
Mhm.
There's a list. Like, I have this. I go through some of them have reached out for me because they're like, hey, just some of my old friends and mentors and people. There was a few people that absolutely came by. A couple of them I reached out for to maybe try to talk to on my show, just so I can say, hey, I just want to publicly tell you how much what you meant to me during that time, and what a
Yeah.
jerk I was being, but I didn't know how to process my
Mhm.
emotions back then as good as I do now. Um, and then I've also, Nate, I have a few where I'll see them and I'll be like, thank you for your patience for letting me grow up and and not and not and and
Yeah.
just let it, because it took me longer to my one of my old mentors told me, he says, you were fine, it just took you longer to grow up than it did most people. So I'm with you on that, man. And if all right, so this is what the Nate now talking to Nate back then, would you say, hey man, just keep doing what you did because it got you to where you are?
Oh
Or would you
man.
sit back and say, hey man, you got, here's an opportunity for you to like, I used a rubber band. I'm like, we got you pulled back right here, but here's some people that can help you jump further ahead than what you are now. How would you process it in that Monday morning quarterback situation?
Man, it would be going back and say, "Hey, Nate, it's about the we, not the me."
Yeah.
And sometimes, you've heard the saying, "Don't block the blessing." And I,
Yeah.
I think that's a part of it. Is sometimes people need to show up for people as a part of their hope. That's their hope that whatever situation they went through prior, this is the opportunity for them to utilize it with empathy and to utilize it and connect with somebody. And I blocked the blessings. I blocked the people from being able to use their difficulties or their hardships to support me in that time frame. And so yeah, I mean it's about the we, man. Like anytime it's always about
Yeah.
me, what I'm going through, what I'm dealing with, you know, even though you're trying to protect other people, you're really trying to protect yourself. And in there, it's like, man, if I went back, I would definitely have done it completely different. But we can't. I'm sitting here and now, and now I try to use it as a way to
Yeah.
influence other people, during their dark times. Hey, listen, like I'm here for you. I've been there. I've sat at the end of my ropes and I made it through just by the grace of God and barely scraping by. Don't let it get as dark as it did for me.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think that's what we do. Like and same as like we try to use our stuff. Like I absolutely can't go back and change any of that stuff. I made the decisions I made to put me kind of where I'm at now, to where I've got a way better clarity from a coaching standpoint or from a friend standpoint or whatever that might be, dude. And so I feel that when you say that, but it sets you up for you creating those moments for daily choices to help
Yeah.
you create the greatest version of yourself. Tell us how, like, here we are, folks. Like, we have negative Nate, who has walked us into this life-changing moment that has where you have to, I mean, we're not talking about, hey, he got fired, let go from a job. We talk about like he's dealing with his own mortality and life or death, and a heart issue that we don't know where it's coming from, and all that happened to set us up for where we are today. So what does that look like now when you add those daily choices in?
Man, the compound effect um is incredible, but it has to be focused. And I think that's what a lot of people miss is the right focus behind their compound effect. And even for me in my early days as an entrepreneur, man, like I got so distracted. I get distracted by other people, and I call it the noise of around you. What is this guy doing? Oh, what are they doing in business? What is this going on? No, what is your plan? What is your focus? Solidifying the focus of your adventure, your story. What do you want it to read? In my first 2 years in business, man, I lost my house. Man, went through a lot of financial hardships because this is right after law enforcement. Basically, like any savings I had got burned right away, and dealing with this tough run, and then launching my first business. And I really had to stay locked in. And so about 2.5, 3 years in, when I was feeling myself constantly comparing myself to other people, other entrepreneurs, I looked at myself in the mirror and I just said, dude, like suck less. And I'm like, man, you got to do better. And then I'm like, suck less, do better. And that became like my daily motto. And the heart behind it was forget about what's going on with everybody else. Don't be distracted by anything around you. What is your plan? What is your purpose? And what is the greatest version of you that could ever exist? And every day move the needle forward. Even if it barely inches, even if it just creeps forward, you got to move the needle forward. And so that became my saying, to keep myself focused, to keep myself dedicated all the way through, taking a business from scratch in 2008 all the way to an exit last year for an 8-figure exit. And in the middle of that, the Inc. 5000 was the last 4 years of my ownership. We hit Inc. 5000 4 years in a row, and then I exited. And so, like, hitting some major achievements as an entrepreneur, resume stuff. And man, it's incredible. And I love it. And God has graced me with a lot of freedoms because of it. And I'm grateful. But it's kind of like a comma in the story. It's not a period, because like now it's like, man, like I feel like this even more obligation to do different and do better, and to chase after the greater version of Nate, and to impact more lives, and to do something what other people aren't willing to do, and to show up differently, and to walk through life every day saying, hey, listen, who can I impact? God, give me opportunities to change lives. Help me influence people. Help me show up. Help me. You know what? Let me use the Holy Spirit and prophecy and whatever it is, like, help me show up for people in ways that I can't even comprehend sometimes. And you know what? It's incredible. And that's where God has these opportunities for us. But sometimes we have to lay ourselves down saying, hey, God, listen, like, I know can't get right, but you know what? You can use this dude. You can use me in a way that I can't even imagine. So you know what? Every single day, I'm just going to keep on showing up, trying to change lives, trying to impact people, trying to help people, guide people, influence people, and let's see what we can do. Let's see what God can do with this thing, man, because it can get crazy.
Yeah. No, dude. Yeah. Is there something you had to unlearn to help kind of get you going with that?
Dude, how much time we have? I mean, like, how many two
It's
by
like,
fours did I take in the face? How much pride got involved in the process? How much wrong hiring decisions? Thinking I knew stuff when I realized that the more I know is the more I don't know. I mean, dude, I can go on for days about failures, mistakes, missteps, and like, you name it, man. We could have a whole nother call just about like the 101 mistakes that Nate made in the last 10 years. And we can dive in, because that's there's so much. I mean, I had to unlearn the biggest thing, and this is something I challenge everybody on. Unlearn the expectations that were put on you, or the things that you heard from childhood, or the things that are surrounding you, and learn you. That's the
yeah,
biggest
man,
thing.
that's
And
good,
once you
man. Dang,
once you
that's
do
good.
that, man, like once you really lock into, forget these expectations, forget these pressures, man, like, who is Nate? Who is Jeff?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah. No, I'm
And
telling
what are you
I,
supposed to do?
you put that in words that make sense to me now, but that's what I have learned over the last 2 years, especially. So I did a lot of cool things. I've got tons of experiences and all the stuff I got to do, but I was like in these stumbling blocks or whatever. And I'm teaching leadership this week at a company, and I kind of told them that today. And I'm like, my life turned when my leadership got better. My life turned and my momentum changed when I started figuring out, because I teach this. And
Mhm.
I said my life changed, and I started when I really started getting to know me better,
Yeah.
and working through. I didn't realize I was still stuck in survival mode from just some of the in me in some different ways from and then just talking to different guests on my podcast, and people point like, Jeff, you're still doing this. I'm like, yeah. They're like, hey, maybe do some research on this. So my guest and just my work here really helped me started to figure that out. And um you kind of saying that the way you present it, like that's what my guest would do. It would speak to me, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's exactly what I need to hear right now. Thank you for echoing that. So what Nate's telling you folks is, there is my wife said this to my daughter. She was a couple years ago. She was talking with something about love. My mom says the right or her mom goes, my wife, she goes, the right person's gonna come along, but they're not gonna come along till you love yourself. And she goes, once you learn to love yourself first, the absolute right people is gonna come into your life. But until then, you might find what you think is love, but it's not gonna be love. Go back and listen to what Nate just said, because getting to know you, and it might be through that struggle that time to say, hey, this is where you're headed. This is an even know yourself. I'm trying to learn it out on you.
We got a
You
little bit
ready?
of delay on the audio, and so I want to make sure I want to hear that question one more time before I answer it.
You ought to hear it. It was
I cannot hear you. It's cutting out a little bit. We should get some sign language going on. You know, give me some 10 codes and some signals. That way, but you know, like this is life, man. This is the best part about it. You know, like reality is not perfect. And you know, like just to pivot on that for a second is like, you know, the great part. I love what you said about you know, love yourself. And I think that is so vital. And you know what, like people say, Nate, like you have such confidence. And I said, well, what do I have confidence in? I have confidence in who I am. I have confidence in my goals, my mission, and my purpose. And I have confidence in how I show up. Why wouldn't I be confident? And yeah, I'm confident in what I know too, but I'm very confident in what I don't know. And I'm not going to stand here and tell you and try to preach to people about what I don't know. But what I do know is I do love who I am, and all the janky stuff, all the bad stuff, all the good stuff. I know that where I'm at today and who I've become in it is an incredible thing. And it is good and okay to love yourself. I acknowledge my weaknesses. I am rough around the edges. I'm a tough dude. But you know what? It can be incredible in motion. And that's something, doesn't matter where you're at. I want to make sure everybody knows, like, you can love yourself and understand that the love you have for yourself is the fact that you're still in progress. And you might be janky, you might be messed up, you might be limping a little bit emotionally at times, but you know what? You can really leverage it to do something incredible.
yeah. You got me back yet?
Yeah, I got you full, loud and clear now.
Yeah, yeah, I know that thing will do that. Man, you nailed it. That's kind of what I was just saying, was like it was the way you phrased what you said there, about just getting to know yourself. And I'm challenging the folks out there that are listening to us who may or not be struggling. You might think you got it all together, but you may not know yourself. Take some time and work through of really getting in your. It was a life changer for me. Getting to know
Yeah.
me, um, absolutely a game changer. Tell me, um, tell me about your book that you have out now, and then walk us into your next one that you got coming out.
Ooh, man. Yeah. So the book I have right now, it fits my snarky personality and my slogan, suck less, do better. And so the book, it's not like you suck, you should do better. It's more a matter of really a roadmap to help people really understand kind of the core fundamental elements of what it takes to chase after a greater future, a greater success. Whether you're an entrepreneur, driven, motivated individual, executive, it doesn't matter. Whether you're just a dude that's like, man, I don't even know what I'm doing in life. It don't matter. You don't even have to be somewhere in progress. It's really to help people understand, like, navigating the holdbacks, the hiccups, that, 101 things that Nate did wrong. This is like the correction of a lot of those things, trying to give people guidance in some core fundamental areas that I slipped and fell in along the journey. And so that's this book. It's been out since last year. My next one is called Cracked Lenses Breed Broken Dreams. And it's all about our childhood, our past, our experiences, and everything that we've gone through in life can make it where we don't even see ourselves for who we really are. our lenses are cracked when we reflect and see our potentials, our future, who we can become, what we can achieve. And so really making sure that we keep those things in check, seal up the cracks, and really be able to go after the best future that we are built to go after.
When is that book due out? Do you have a date yet?
We don't have a date yet. We're trying to make some decisions on the exact launch date. I am still in some of the writing process because
Yeah.
this one, man, like what I love in my writing style is I always love having fun stories that start the chapters and then relate all the topics back to it about different areas of my life, man. In Suck Less, Do Better, that book, there's a story, I think it's chapter 6, that I talk about some of my dating experiences once I went through a nasty divorce and I went back onto the dating market when I was 34, and a 6'2" Brazilian woman decided to make me feel like a snack and tell me that she wanted to tie me to the bedpost. And I was actually scared because I'm only 5'9". So I'm like, man, like I am legitimately scared. You are much bigger than me. And so, telling life stories and like just connecting the dots, man, it's a blast. And then we got a cool project that I can't really go into, but that goes parallel with this next book. And that project is what's slowing down a little bit of the release date, but it's going to be even more impactful. And that's really the big purpose.
Man, that's awesome. You ever hear Mark O'Brien?
Oh yeah.
Mark O'Brien, soccer player from Ireland. Make sure we got the right one. Yep.
The
Same
honorary by
similar.
nature. Yeah.
He is, and he had he ends up having a heart condition, ends his soccer career, and your story you both share the same passion for spreading that story of your resilience and of how you approach life today and the impact that you're trying to make, man. And we're cut from a lot of the same cloth and sewn together with some of the similar needles. I feel that in the passions that we share of how we try to use our life to help others. And yours definitely spoke to me when I was just researching and looking, man. And I'm going to pick up that book. And I hope the other folks that are out there do as well. And how you run your coaching business and you have your coaching clients. As we wrap up here, tell everybody kind of your ideal client and how they can get in touch with you as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what I love is I do a little bit of I do coaching and consulting, and sometimes we do hybrids, meaning like a lot of the clients that I work with are needing tactical and practical steps inside their business, inside of their career. And what we find is like a lot of that we can do some great tactical work, but we also have a lot of mindset and core fundamental issues that we work through on more of that coaching space. And as you know, Jeff, like it is great to be a coach, but it's more important to be a tactician in guiding people, not just through mindset, but through process and progress. Because, it's one thing if somebody is hungry or thirsty and you say, hey, I will pray for you. Well, why don't you just go get them a bottle of water? And that's the same thing in coaching and consulting. There's a lot of coaches that make you feel good about yourself, but who's going to guide you tactically and practically to progress and to a better outcome? And that's the core fundamental thing. And whether it's, our masterminds or whether it is, one-on-ones or group programs, man, it's all about tactical, practical movements and having an impact in your journey that will last for the rest of your life.
Man, I appreciate it. I put Nate's website in the chat there, folks. You'll see that down in the comments. If you're listening to this after the fact, it'll be in the notes, in the show notes. So make sure you connect with him. And man, I appreciate it. I'm sure at some point in time we're going to jump back on here and we can go over the next book or whatever that might be. Or if you got a cool event that's happening, just let me know, man. I'd love to help you promote it. And hopefully at some point in time we'll cross paths on a stage together or in a mastermind together, or we're delivering the same fire. So absolutely, I can't thank you enough for coming and sharing your story and your journey and all the passions that you have about helping folks out there navigate their lives. And I appreciate it, Nate. Thanks for being with me today.
Man, Jeff, I appreciate it. This is a blast, man. We got to do this again and jams into some deeper, more serious topics, right?
Yeah, yeah. This is our get to know each other, and you're right, man. Next time we'll I do that with a couple. My buddy from Franklin, me and him do an episode every couple weeks where we'll just go through some leadership lessons and maybe some current events that are going on in the public safety world that we'll just kind of debrief, give our 2 cents on or whatever. And so I'm sure there's a hot button issue that'll pop up. You just shoot me a message and be like, "Hey, this is a good one for us to
Yeah.
talk about." We'll jump
Well,
on and we'll
love it,
make it
man.
happen. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and also like if you guys got any needs here, and if you get some feedback from your audience saying, "Hey, listen, like, can you guys go deeper into this?" Man, like I'm all about talking about pain and trauma.
Yeah.
So if you guys want more, we'll give you more.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. Man, I'm going to wrap. And folks, thanks for tuning in. If you're watching this after the fact, make sure you check the show notes and get in touch with Nate. And I appreciate everybody tuning in to Jeff Robertson Show today. Thank you, Nate.